Thank you. The next question is from Assembly Member Russell, which is about air pollution.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Yes, we know that poor air quality remains the biggest environmental risk to health, and yesterday the coroner concluded that air pollution played a role in the tragic death of 9-year-old Ella Adoo Kissi-Debrah in 2013. This must be a turning point so that other families do not have to suffer the same heartbreak as Ella's family. I've taken bold action to tackle air pollution in London. The changes I've made since 2016 have led to a 94% reduction in the number of Londoners living in areas exceeding legal limits of nitrogen dioxide and a 97% reduction in the number of state schools in areas exceeding these limits. However, despite a 15% reduction in PM 2.5 since 2016, 99% of Londoners still live in areas exceeding the WHO PM 2.5 guidelines. I'm proud London was the first major world city to make the Breathe Live pledge to achieve WHO PM 2.5 guidelines by 2030. I've adopted this target in my environment strategy. A GLA report published in October 2019 showed that through the delivery of my policies and with additional powers and funding, it is possible for London to meet this target. Road transport is the largest individual source of local PM 2.5 emissions. I've taken real action to tackle this, including accelerating the introduction of ULOs in 2019, cleaning up the bus and taxi fleets, and investing hugely in walking and cycling. However, I have more limited powers to tackle non-transport sources of PM 2.5, which account for around 70% of local emissions. This includes construction machinery, wood burning, river vessels, and commercial cooking. And much of the PM 2.5 measured in London comes from sources outside of the city, meaning a national approach is needed. Alongside other city leaders, I continue to call on the government to use the Environment Bill to make the WHO PM 2.5 guidelines legally binding and provide the new powers needed to clean up our polluted cities by 2030. London is on track to meet legal pollution limits for nitrogen dioxide by 2025, a milestone that would have taken 193 years, but for our policies over the last 4.5 years on air quality.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And today, the day after Rosamond Adoo Kissi-Debrah, a brave and very remarkable woman who campaigned for years, and it was just yesterday that she has had toxic air, mainly from traffic, recognised as the cause of her daughter Ella's death back in 2013. Now, this changes everything for elected members at every level of government, and all of us in this virtual chamber, and those of us also elected as councillors and MPs, must now think how we can help protect the Londoners we represent from the harm posed by traffic, tyre wear and exhaust emissions. Ella's case shows we need action that cuts pollution in London rapidly, and the main lever you, Mr. Mayor, and local authorities have on this is to cut motor traffic. Now, as the TfL Independent Review put it last week, road user charging can discourage private vehicle use and encourage public transport use, reducing congestion and improving air quality, end quote. Your transport strategy does have a traffic reduction target, but it aims for just a reduction of 10 to 15% by 2041. That's 20 years away. Will you strengthen your traffic reduction target and bring it forward as part of planning for any future road user charging?
I'd say respectfully, you've asked 2 minutes to ask a question there, if you give me some time to answer it. So we've set a number of plans already which are leading to real change. I gave you the one evidence from King's College, which is rather than taking 193 years, it will take us 5 years to bring our air within legal, lawful limits because of our policies. You'll be aware that even bringing ULEZ forward was very controversial. Many of the Assembly opposed me on doing so. We're going to extend it to the North Circular and South Circular, which means 96% of London will be covered by that policy. I'd rather do something now rather than doing something in 5 years' time. No major city in the world is using road user charging. There are big questions about the technology. As it is, to get ULEZ rolled out to the North Circular and South Circular by next October is going to be a big, big challenge. We're really, you'll be aware, running out across all of London for the big vehicles as well. But you've also seen a major transformation in relation to us trying to lead to modal shift, avoiding a car-led recovery and encouraging people to use public transport safely where they can, but to walk and cycle as well. And what I think is really important is to persuade the government to provide us with the additional powers and resources we need.
Mr. Mayor, the conclusions of the TfL independent review say that you should not just investigate a Greater London boundary charge, but also a distance-based scheme with new technology, which is something I've long advocated. To be very clear, all your charges currently are area-based, but that doesn't help reduce miles driven. Once an area charge is paid, there's no incentive to drive less that day. So will you look at smart distance-based options which will actually help reduce pollution, especially for people living by main roads?
I think we're in danger of making an argument where there isn't one. My transport strategy, which I can send to you, already makes it quite clear. We'll explore those sorts of technologies, and I've already made it quite clear that the concern is that we're not quite ready in relation to the technology. So what we're doing is going in with what we can to make speedy change. You'll be aware that because of our policies, we've already reduced the amount of NOx in our city, particulate matter and carbon. You've seen the numbers in relation to the 94% fewer homes in areas where the areas are unlawful, and 97% reduction in relation to schools. So I think what is wrong is for you to give the impression we're against that technology. We are looking into it, and my transport strategy is quite clear about that.
Okay, I'm glad you're looking into it. Thank you. What I'm worried about is that Londoners are going to look at all the actions that they've been told about on air pollution and think that the problem is actually solved. I warned you back in 2017 in my response to the original consultation on the wider ULEZ that all of London was breathing air with particulates that are above World Health Organization limits. Time is running out. We need to get on with cutting traffic, not raising it with things like Silvertown Tunnel, but I have no further questions. I'm out of time.